All right, and we are live with episode 2, Dunked On, a basketball podcast. As always, I am joined with Frenzy, DerBroski, and IraqemUp. Guys, how are we doing today for episode 2?
Pretty good, dude.
Just chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a layover with episode
Pop
1.
a 40 and check your rollies. It's crime time.
We're bringing the
you
hook
already-
to you, man. we're doing great though. What's up with that?
What is good? Yeah, we had a little bit of a layover with episode 1. Just some personal things kind of came up with some of us, with me for Monday, and but we're back and we're ready to kind of get everything going and look forward to these next couple episodes though. But playoffs are right around the corner. They actually start Saturday. With that being said, the Spurs are actually now eliminated. And the Grizzlies have clinched either the 8th or the 9th seed. So who do you guys think will end up getting the 8th seed? Will the Blazers make it in? Will it be the Suns or will it be the Grizzlies?
Herb.
Well, I guess I can start out here. So, I think the Blazers will probably make the playoffs just because of kind of seeding and like how the seeding works. I think the Suns probably deserve it the most though, just with how they played in the bubble. Being 8-0. But in all likelihood, though, I think the Blazers are probably going to get that last spot, which is going to be super interesting. I'm pretty sure that they control their own fate at this point. I think Memphis needs to lose. I think I saw that correctly, but I think the Blazers will probably make the playoffs, though.
No, so I'll explain the whole situation. So Memphis has already clinched the play-in game. So if the Blazers win tonight, Memphis and the Blazers will be playing in the play-in game or the play-in tournament this weekend. So if the Blazers lose, then it's Phoenix and the Grizzlies in the play-in tournament. So like you said, the Blazers, hold their own fate. And I'm pretty certain that things are situated in the East. So things are just getting situated like right now in the West. And right now the score is actually tied 31-31 Blazers and Nets. So
Yeah, I personally think that the Blazers are going to come out and get the 8th seed. I mean, I'm kind of hoping for the Lakers' sake, obviously, that the Grizzlies get the 8th seed, but or the Suns as well. But I really do think that it is going to be the Blazers. Lillard has been red hot in the bubble. He has been absolutely scorching, and I mean, you could just see, like, based on his last 2 performances, he had 50 points, or was it like 51 points, and then he had a 61 point performance last night or nights ago. I can't even remember whenever that game took place now. But yeah, he's been absolutely on fire in the bubble, and I feel like that team is going to be locked and loaded and might even be able to pull off an upset in the playoffs if they keep this up. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
I
it's
think-
honestly a shame, personally, just because I really wish we would have gotten, I think everyone here too can agree with that, I wish we would have been able to get Phoenix Blazers as the play-in game, with how well Devin Booker and they've played. I mean, they're, 8-0, I think, 9-0 during the bubble. And yeah, now it just basically comes down to Portland, win or lose tonight against the Nets. So it's pretty unfortunate that we're not going to get Dame versus Booker. But nonetheless, I mean, it looks like, especially with the injury of Jaren Jackson, that we're pretty set on. I would think it's going to be Portland, honestly.
Yeah, I think Portland too. I'm not going to elaborate too much further. You guys already hit the nail on the head with this one.
so you guys want to go into the next topic, which is who has been the best player in the bubble so far? And I mean, I guess I'll start off with this one. Going back and elaborating further on the whole Damian Lillard is my pick and nomination for best player in the bubble, and it's not even really close, to say the least, as well. Like, the guy has had over 30 points in every game outside of 2. Their schedule has been very difficult. They've gone against Boston, Nuggets, Rockets, Clippers, and I don't even remember what the other teams that they played against were. And then he's had 45 points, 51 points, and then 61 points in 3 games. Like, has like how many people have even gotten 50 in the bubble so far, and yet he's gotten over 2 games over 50, and let alone like a 60-point game. That's just like absurd. The guy is just single-handedly willing his team to the 8th seed in the playoffs, and I just think that it's got to be Devin, or I'm sorry, Damian Lillard.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like no contest. I think Devin Booker is definitely a close second. I agree that Lillard has been the best player. He's been averaging 36 a game on really efficient shooting. But the thing is, though, is that he did choke against the Clippers where he missed those 2 free throws and, cost them the game. So, he did choke. And, Devin Booker is averaging, I believe, 30.5 points per game on also like really good field goal percentage and hit that game winner too. So, and then also the Suns have played all playoff teams as well. So no one even really expected the Suns to actually, be this good to run the table in the bubble. Like no one saw this coming. But, if Dame's dropping back-to-back 50-point games and, 45-point games where he's shooting like 11 for 16 from 3, it's just really hard to compete with that. Even though he did have that blunder against the Clippers, I'll have to say, Lillard, just based off of like all the crazy things that he's been doing, like 50-point game, 60-point game, 45-point game, you know.
And it wasn't even just he had 45 in that game. I'm actually looking it up on Basketball Reference as well. He had 2 games before that, 30 points, 16 assists, and then he had 45 points and 12 assists in that game where he had 45 points. So the guy is putting up outrageous stat lines. And, these games that they're winning too aren't all blowouts too, by the way. Nearly every single one of these games has been by a margin of victory of only 3 points, 3 points, and 8 points. Like, these are very close games, and yet, and they're still playing against very, very tough teams as well. Like these are multiple of these teams are top 3 in their respective conference. So, but go on, you guys are.
But
Yeah,
I will.
I have to get my
Go ahead.
take in here.
Go
So, so while I am a huge Devin Booker fan, I do have to give the edge to Lillard. That definitely. I'm in the bubble. I'm looking at these stats right now. I mean, like just based off the last 2 games, like that guy, like we said, has been just willing his team to victory. I mean, back-to-back 50-point games, but I mean, we can't be sleeping on Devin Booker here. I mean, guys dropped 35 in 3 straight games. 3 out of the last 4 games, he's had 35 actually, and 30 out of the last, 5 out of the last 6 games. So, I mean, guys been popping off too. Definitely Lillard, probably just because I mean, without him, like the team would just not be in the position it's in right now. So, I mean, that's a pretty easy call overall, to be honest.
Yeah, I personally don't have a lot to add. I think it's pretty obvious. It's a 2-man race between these 2 guys, Devin Booker and Dame, like we all kind of stated. But, I mean, Dame's numbers are just off the charts. It's pretty crazy what Phoenix was able to do, though, in this stretch and actually have a chance to make the playoffs. Definitely did not see that one coming. So it'll be interesting to see how this Blazer net game ends tonight, though, because I think right now it's very early, as IraqemUp stated, but they're actually down by 3 right now to the Nets. So
Yeah.
And another thing too that wanted to add on to this as well was it's just if you look at like the Blazers, whenever they're playing against these teams, like they are playing very, very hard teams and they're playing at full strength. They aren't sitting and resting any guys or anything. They are playing like big minutes. They're marquee players. They are playing big minutes in every single one of these games, and yet they are still coming out. And Damian Lillard is absolutely torching them. And going back to like Devin Booker, you guys are mentioning him as the number 2 guy on your list right now, but has he even had a 40-point game? Because Devin Booker has had 3 games well over 40 points. In fact, like, one of them is 50 points and then 60 points. So it's just like, I don't see how it couldn't even be close, like, if I'm being completely honest.
Well,
Especially with the schedule that they have.
Well, I mean, you look at the Suns' schedule. Their schedule is no slouch either. And if Dame chokes in this game, like I honestly could see someone given the nudge to the Suns just because of the fact that the Suns had to run the table. Like the Blazers did not win every single game, and Dame choked at the very end of the game,
agree.
missed 2 free throws. So if he
Did.
chokes in this game, like, you could maybe make the argument, like, that Booker has been, have been having the best 8-game stretch performance in the bubble. So we'll see what happens. It's not over and done with. Now, if the Blazers win and Lillard puts up like 30, then yeah, I mean, it's pretty much over and
Yeah,
done with.
I want to talk about that a little bit more later, but yeah, what else did you guys want to? We have a big list of topics.
Yeah, I kind of just agree with IraqemUp here. I mean, like, right now the edge definitely goes to Lillard, but I mean, I think that can swing very easily depending on how this Nets Blazers game ends. I mean, that could very easily, if the Suns get in, I mean, that should go to Booker, honestly.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So VSAT, did you want to start with the next topic?
Yeah, definitely. So the next topic we got, what's going on with the Lakers right now? They're currently 3-5 in the bubble. Obviously they won their first game against the Clippers. But I don't know, like, is there something to be nervous about? I personally, yes and no. I think they'll still make the conference finals. I don't see them losing to either Portland, Memphis, or Phoenix. I think Portland can obviously give them a tough matchup. But I just don't know who would match up well with really LeBron, because Ariza is out as well, for Portland, that is. So I don't see that going well for them. And then obviously the second round matchup would either be Houston or OKC. And of course, Russell Westbrook's got a lot of question marks right now with Houston, whether or not the report that I read earlier today was that he's at least going to miss the first couple games of the first series. So I think they'll get to the conference finals, which is kind of what everyone's, I feel like, agreed upon all along. But I don't know. LeBron hasn't played great. He's made some statements saying that he's kind of getting used to life without the fans. I don't know. I kind of don't buy that. Just because, like, you're a professional, like, you get paid like millions of dollars. Like, you got to go out and ball. But the last time we did see LeBron in the playoffs, I think was arguably his best run, although it didn't result in a championship in 2018. I think he's the one guy that you really can't sleep on. I think he does have that second engine he can kind of turn on and really get going. But there's no secret that the losses of Avery Bradley has really hurt them, because Danny Green just doesn't seem like he's anywhere nearly remotely the same player and defender that he used to be for them. So I don't know. I think the Lakers have some issues. But I think they'll have no issue getting to the Western Conference Finals, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll make the Western Conference Finals, but if you look at like this schedule potentially, where if they face the Blazers in the first round, Lillard is going to eat them alive. Now, they might not have anybody to check LeBron, but who is going to guard McCollum and Lillard? The Lakers, like, perimeter defense with their guards is a blaring weakness, on their team. And I'll say that series probably goes 6 games, 5 games. I don't see it going 7. I think the Lakers, just having LeBron, they'll be able to get through it, regardless of how hot Dame is. And then the second round, it all depends really on how healthy Russell Westbrook is. I'm not going to put money on it. I could maybe see the Rockets somehow beating them, but very, like, improbable. I'd say that's probably another 6-game series. But I look at the Clippers, path to the Western Conference Finals, and their path is much easier than Lakers. So I think that the Lakers might be running out a little bit of gas when they actually get to the conference finals. And then I look at how the Lakers are assembled. They're missing role players. They don't have good perimeter guard play. So you go from the best 3-point shooting teams in the NBA right now, the Blazers, the Rockets, and then the Clippers, statistically speaking. And then you face the Clippers, who they have so many guys to throw bodies at LeBron, but the Clippers don't really have much of an answer for Anthony Davis. But I just look at the Clippers and I just see them as a more complete team, more veterans, better coach. have a bunch of dogs that are experienced, aren't afraid of the moment. And I look at the Lakers and they just are way too reliant on LeBron. Anthony Davis throughout this season and throughout his career thus far, the guy is not proven as a clutch player. He has been disappearing in fourth quarters this year. Look up his points in the fourth quarter per game, like in big moments. The guy, I'm not really trusting Anthony Davis in those big moments. So if you have to solely rely on LeBron, yeah, you can get to the finals and win the championship, but your team shouldn't be solely dependent on LeBron. And then another thing is that you look at the Lakers or you look at other championship teams that LeBron had. They had legit number 3 guy, Kevin Love, Chris Bosh. I am not super confident in Kyle Kuzma being that third guy. Like, he is still adapting to his role, being the third guy on the team, and he is incredibly inconsistent. You can see him go off for a game, and then he literally will disappear in another game. He'll hit a game winner in a game like how he did a couple days ago, or he'll just be a no-show. So that is another concern for me too. I don't. I know I've been going on for a little bit, but I just don't see the Lakers losing before the Western Conference Finals. But I do think that they can be upset. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's like no way they're getting upset though.
Yeah, so to like bring up one of the points that you went on about how the Lakers are like really bad as far as like defending, like they have like nobody to defend CJ and Lillard or something, but they also have they have Danny Green and they have Caruso. Like those guys are both good on defense. Like both of them are good on defense.
Caruso will get absolutely torched by
Don't they
Damian
have
Lillard.
wait, don't they have what's his name? KCP? Isn't that guy like a beast ass defender? Oh, wait, he is.
Like yeah,
KCP is going to be guarding Damian Lillard.
I don't think that
Yeah.
they're gonna be locking them down and caning them, but they can definitely like slow them down a little bit. And like who's gonna guard AD like on the Blazers? Like who's gonna stop AD? Like I don't think AD can be stopped. I think that he's just too good to be completely stopped for an entire series. It's just not going to happen. So especially whenever you have playmaking ability with LeBron, I think that the Blazers do end up getting bounced 6-game series at the most, but I don't think that it's going to be like a Damian Lillard show. Although I don't want to really talk about that too much right now as far as what's going to happen in the playoffs, because we don't even know if like the Trailblazers are going to make the playoffs. We don't even know if that's going to happen. But the Lakers being 3-5, I don't really see that much of an issue with it. Like, sure, it would be nicer if they were obviously having a better record, but they're two like games that they really want to win against the two toughest opponents in their conference are the Clippers and the Nuggets, and they won both of them. They won both of those games. LeBron sat out a game against the Rockets. They're kind of playing limited minutes in some of these other ones as well. Like they're just kind of taking it easy. They know that they have the 1 seed and they're probably just experimenting, playing like other schemes and, doing a bunch of other stuff. I don't know like what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not an assistant coach for the Los Angeles Lakers or anything, but I personally don't really see it as being an alarming thing. Sure, LeBron's performance has been a little underwhelming so far, but I think that's another topic on here as well. So I don't really want to get into that. So, DerBroski, if you have anything to add on to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen this happen with like a lot of LeBron's teams where like they play shitty into the going into the playoffs and they turn it up. So I mean, I'm not too worried, to be honest, about their situation, because we've seen LeBron teams kind of flip the switch and be able to just go, just turn it to another level, whenever they get to the playoffs. So I'm not too worried. I mean, if we see them struggle the first 2 games of the playoffs, I mean, then yeah, you have a case. But I think LeBron, I mean, is going to flip the switch like usual. Guy's just going to have an insane like first 2 games of the playoffs, and I don't think that we're going to be having this conversation again here in a week. But I mean, anything can happen for sure, especially if they play those Blazers. I mean, I think that The Warriors, like, if we're going to talk about like teams playing the Blazers, I mean, we saw the Warriors just decimate them. And I mean, Steph Curry is obviously not a good defender. I mean, yeah, they had Clay, but I mean, they had no KD on that team either, and they 4-0 swept them. So, I mean, I think that Blazers team, like, although, yeah, it's full strength now, I mean, I could see like max like 6 games, the Lakers to
Well,
win. So,
one, this isn't the Eastern Conference. Like, sure, I'm not doubting LeBron, but let's stop sitting here
well,
acting like LeBron's
it's
just going to steamroll through a bunch of bums like how he did in the East, for the past decade. Like, this West is fucking loaded. And on top of that, the Damian Lillard and the Blazers did underperform last year, but apparently Damian Lillard was hurt in that series. So, I don't really know what to make of that. And also, it's that series was deceptive because those games were actually close, and the Blazers would just choke away leads in the fourth quarter, like every single game in that Western Conference Finals. And it took Steph to have arguably his greatest playoff series ever to just 4-0 sweep them. So
I know, but we're also talking about Anthony Davis and LeBron James versus a team with just Steph Curry, really. I mean, I think Clay was injured in that series too, if I remember correctly. Maybe he was.
no,
I
he wasn't.
forget, but honestly forget, like, that playoffs really was not that memorable. But anyway, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's just my opinion. So
Okay, so you guys wanted to talk about the Bucks now as well. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Since we're talking about the Lakers. All right, so yeah, the Bucks also have the same record as the Lakers. They're also 3-5 in the bubble, and they're losing to easy teams. And I mean, that's like, sure, that's a good way to evaluate things if it was just like, that's all there was to it. But it isn't like that simple. Again, the Bucks already know that they comfortably have the 1 seed, and they're just kind of sitting there on the throne, and just maybe playing some other schemes, trying other things out, like, at least from what I would assume. And on top of that, if you actually watch the games, you would know Giannis and a lot of their starters and star players are only playing very limited minutes. In fact, like, sometimes even as low as 10 minutes a game in multiple of these games. They aren't playing much more than like the first half, and not because they're getting blown out. It's not because they're getting dominated or they're dominating the other team. It's just they're simply just trying to rest them up for the playoffs. And some of the guys are even sitting out in some of these games. They're not taking it that seriously. And I'm not really alarmed by the Bucks. I think that the Bucks will still be, dominating their first round matchup. Whoever they play against is most likely going to get stomped. And then, I don't know what will happen after that. But, I'm just saying I don't think the Bucks are going to be really really like a team to worry about come playoffs. I think that they're perfectly fine the way that they are. You guys can go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with what Frenzy said there. Not worried about them in terms of the regular season. They were clearly so far in front of first. Like, there was really no issue with that. Definitely got more question marks as it pertains to the playoffs, but obviously we can kind of cover that when we get into our playoff discussions. The one thing that I will say though is with that, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but with the headbutt from Giannis, it definitely seemed like it warranted more than just a 1 game suspension. I feel like the league probably should have did something a little bit more, honestly.
Yeah,
I mean, they have no threat to losing to Orlando, but it definitely seemed like it should have been a little bit more than 1 game.
No, I absolutely agree with that. That's like absurd. Like, I mean, you think back to I think Zidane. What's the guy's name? Zidane or something.
Zaza Pachulia.
No. He was a soccer player for the French World Cup team, and he headbutted a player in the World Cup finals, and then he got ejected from the game. And that's like in a World Cup game. Like, so the fact that Giannis is only getting like suspended for like 1 regular season game or something,
Yeah.
that's just kind of ridiculous. Like, there should be definitely a far more severe punishment for that. That's easily like well, it's a flagrant 2, like, obviously, right? Like, that's 100% like flagrant 2, and should be more than that. Like, but yeah, my opinion, I think that he should have gotten suspended for at least 1 playoff game as well. Not like I think it would have changed the outcome of the series or anything.
Absolutely.
Like, what? Who knows? Who knows what could happen?
Go ahead, Broski.
I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm not really concerned about the Bucks either. I mean, again, like a lot of these teams kind of had their seeds wrapped up almost. So with only 8 games in the season, um, or left in the season, they didn't have much to play for, to be honest. So I mean, if they continue to struggle like the Lakers in the playoffs, I mean, then there's I think some cause for concern. But overall, I mean, the Lakers locked up the 1 seed. They rested LeBron. I don't think there's really much concern there. I mean, I think that there's a few teams that could potentially give the Bucks problems. I think that the Raptors are one for sure. Like last year, I mean, even though they don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore, they still have a very solid defensive unit. I mean, you can just see that based on how the Raptors have played. I think they have one less loss than the Lakers. I mean, granted, they're in the East, but the East is also a pretty strong conference now. Overall, like the top 6 teams or so are pretty strong now in the East. So, I mean, still very impressive by the Raptors. So I think the Raptors could potentially give them problems, but I mean overall, I don't think the Bucks are going to struggle too much coming into the playoffs.
I actually do think that the Bucks will struggle, and I think that the Bucks are honestly regular season frauds, just like how they were last year, and how Kawhi and the Raptors exposed them. I just look at the Bucks, and I feel as if the Heat could potentially cause them problems. I see the Raptors potentially causing them problems, and I think that they will make the finals. That's for another discussion, but I feel as if almost every basketball analyst and basketball fan outside of Milwaukee thinks that either LA team is going to win the finals. Like everybody just looks at this Bucks team who is on pace for 70 wins at one point, and they don't take them like very serious. Like sure they're a good team, but that record is not as good as they actually are. And I just look at it and they dominate shit teams, but once they face the elite teams, Giannis is not a closer. He's not a clutch player, and you need those guys. You need your superstar to be a closer at the end of games. And do you really want a guy like Chris Middleton being your closer on your team? Like, sure, the guy's a good player, but Chris Middleton is not known as a super clutch closer player. So I do think that the Bucks could potentially get upset before the finals. I'm not putting money on it. I'm going to say they probably will make the finals, but I can see teams like the Heat, I can see teams like the Raptors, and who knows if the Celtics have an A+ series, maybe they can knock them off too, but just the fact that they don't have much of a defensive answer for Giannis, that definitely, brings some questions to me about the Celtics facing them, because we saw last year how Giannis completely dismantled that team. So
nobody else has anything else to add on to this? Do you guys want to get into our next topic then about are you guys worried about LeBron playing poorly in the bubble? I'll let I think VSAT should take this one actually first, and then IraqemUp afterwards.
Well, didn't we already kind of talk about this like with
I think
with
we
the
did.
Bucks or with the Lakers
Yeah,
playing
it's sort of
poorly?
like a dual topic.
Yeah,
I think we all sort of agreed that LeBron will just flip the switch and just go 0 dark 30 mode.
Yeah, is there anyone that kind of disagrees with that?
I'm
Nah.
a little worried. I'm a little worried though, to be completely honest, because yeah, it is a different atmosphere, and there are like no fans, and it's not the same. Like even just watching these games, I kind of feel a little deflated inside. Like I'm just like, man, is this like really basketball? Like, so I don't know if that's how some of the players out there feel as well. Just not having like all that pressure like on them, like, and it might even make some players play even better, that like so they don't have like this pressure on them. Than Booker, like he could be playing much better than normally just because he doesn't have much pressure on him anymore, because really have like the fans booing and cheering and stuff. So who knows like what could be happening, but yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong from that perspective. I kind of agree. It is definitely a really weird playoff run this is going to be. Really no home court advantage and no fans and stuff, and how that's going to affect things. But I think at the end of the day, I mean, LeBron is going to have some time to figure it out. I think Portland will push them a little bit. But I think by the time the Clippers come around, he should be in full playoff form, I would assume, honestly. It just will that be enough to beat the Clippers? But that's obviously a whole nother topic.
I mean, I don't think LeBron shouldn't need to rely upon fans like getting him motivated and to, play to his own standards. And this isn't just for LeBron. Like literally every single player in the bubble has to play without fans. This is not just a LeBron show. Like I don't see that as an excuse. Like, oh, LeBron played poorly against the Clippers because there was no fans and he didn't have home court advantage. Like, that's a load of bullshit, dude. Like, this is the same level playing field for everybody. No one is playing, with fans screaming and, chanting. It's completely level playing field. So, I don't buy into that whole potential excuse coming from the LeBron fans if he falls short and doesn't even make the finals.
But yeah, I think that I don't know. I just think that some players might be really accustomed to having that, like I said, atmosphere surrounding them whenever they're playing and stuff. And some players might feel way far more relieved not having that, the pressure and stuff, especially in the playoffs, not having that pressure of a loaded building of fans that don't want you to win, or a loaded building of fans that want you to win, and you need to step up and try to win the game so that you can make your fans happy and stuff. I don't know. I obviously there's no real way to tell if this is the case with LeBron, but according to VSAT, he was saying that LeBron did say that it was part of the reason why he was probably performing or something like that. So who really knows what the case actually is?
Yeah, I think what he said was, I'm not going to quote him exactly, but it was something along the lines with no fans was affecting him, plus also the background to the backboard and stuff, to the shooting, which is obviously definitely affects shooters. When you're used to more of an arena, or he referenced even being in college or high school gyms. It's just very dark and different. And if you play basketball, that definitely kind of affects you depending on where you're playing. The one thing that I would say is helpful though is that his defense intensity has been pretty nuts. I mean, you look at that at the end of the Clippers game. I mean, he had some he stepped up really. You know what I mean? A lot of people like to criticize LeBron to maybe not showing up, but I mean, his defense was really, really strong. His shooter has always been very very streaky, but his defense is it's like he turned back time a little bit with some of the possessions.
And it wasn't even just the end of the game, too. I was seeing it throughout the entire game,
Right.
but more so at the end, though. He had huge plays, and it wasn't just the fact that he kind of put the clamps on Kawhi on that last possession and made him toss the ball back to Paul George or whatever because he couldn't push a drive through on LeBron or do that. What did he try doing? He tried doing a jumper or whatever, trying to juke LeBron and do a jumper or whatever, and LeBron didn't bite on it. But he also 2 possessions before that, he locked down Paul George so hard to the point where he had a shot clock violation. Somebody like Paul George having a shot clock violation, there was almost an entire 15-second, 20-second possession right there with the ball in Paul George's hands, and he couldn't get it out. He couldn't even launch up a shot, no pass, nothing. His defense was that locked down in that game. So yeah, LeBron, as far as defense is concerned, I'm not really worried about that one bit. A lot of people do like to criticize him for not really playing defense, but I haven't really been watching too many of the Lakers games this season. But I would not be surprised if LeBron makes maybe second team all defense or something like that. I really think that he shown this year that he can play defense still at a very, very elite level.
Yeah, I think people will just forget how good of a defender he used to be. I think he genuinely got robbed. I believe it was that 2012 year where he came in second to, what was it, Tyson Chandler, I think it was, in Defensive Player of the Year.
He got second actually in 2 years. The first year was in 2009. He got second to Dwight Howard, who was on his 3-year streak of getting Defensive Player of the Year. And then the next year was in 2013. That was DeMarcus Gasol.
Right, Marcus
Defensive Player of the
Gasol it
Year.
was. Yeah, and he didn't even make all defense first team that year either, which was
Yeah,
kind of
nope.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I think people forget how good of a defender he was. Obviously, that was his younger age, but he's really shown some. Like it starts with him, you know. And I think for that purpose alone, I think he'll find his shooting streak, and I don't think there's really much to be worried about. If this goes into the playoffs, then we'll obviously have a different conversation. But for right now, I think he'll be fine, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, go on.
No, I was just saying, yeah.
Okay. So, topic that I think it's been mostly DerBroski wants to talk about this, and that is he's a big Devin Booker fan, and in fact, his profile picture has changed over to what appears to be Devin Booker as well, and he wants to know and ask everybody in here.
Oh,
Has
this is
Devin
more
Booker
this is more a
had?
Frenzy's question because he actually posed this question on Reddit to defend his answer, which you guys will find out soon enough. But we'll
And
we'll
that's only
continue with the
because you
question
guys
though.
told me to. That's only because you guys told me to post this question. And actually, people were more in my favor than in yours.
Yeah.
But
A month
anyways,
ago, though.
so okay, so we're gonna be a prisoner of the moment.
No,
Anyways,
not
let me
prisoner of the
actually
moment.
let me
Nope,
actually
not
finish
prisoner of the
this
moment.
first. So, who has had a better season? Or I'm sorry, who is better in any season? Wait, what? Who is better in any season? That doesn't. Okay. Anyways, has any of Devin Booker's seasons been better than Victor Oladipo's in 2018? Better way of Broski, go on.
I mean, I think so. I mean, if you look at him this year, I mean, he's about to make first team all bubble. I mean, he made the All-Star game this year in that heated Western Conference, and I mean, I think you can probably argue that I mean he should have made it in the first place, and he got snubbed in the first place. But I mean, if you look at him and kind of how he's played this year, he just led his team to a potential playoff berth. I mean, if you look at his teammates, I mean, Guy just does not have the best teammates in the world. I mean, if you look at Victor Oladipo, I mean, his teammates, Domantas Sabonis is now an All-Star. If you look at the rest,
But was he an All-Star in 2018? Remember, this is highlighting 2018.
I mean, so if you look at 2018, that team won 48 games. The next year, they also won 48 games without Oladipo playing half the year. They also won, I think it was 40 something, or maybe it was 48 games actually in 2020 and or 29, or was it? Yeah, I think it was this year, and he's also not played most of the year. So, I mean, I think you can just see his team's a lot better all around. They played a weak Cavs team in the first round of the playoffs, and he only managed to shoot, you know, 42% from the field as the main guy. And if you look at Devin Booker, he's been on fire. I think we all just agreed this year he's been the second best player in the bubble, and that's only because Damian Lillard is just like gone God mode. So I mean, I think if you look at Devin Booker's season this year, overall it's a better year than uh, what's his name, Oladipo.
Is that it?
Oh.
Okay, so I want to go next actually to counter much everything that he said. And for one, this Suns team has had their back against the walls. This is a must win. Every single game is a must win for the Suns team. But yet, if you look at their schedule, people want to talk about how it's like rough, but who are they playing against? They're playing against the Wizards and, bottom feeder playoff team. They aren't playing against any of the top 3 teams in either conference outside of one game against the Clippers. They're not playing against Lakers. They're not playing against the Nuggets. No Bucks, no games against the Raptors, and not even against the Celtics. They're playing against the easiest teams in the bubble. This whole narrative about their schedule being easy is completely falsified. That's not true whatsoever. And actually, they're on like what, 8-game win streak right now?
Is Dallas a good team?
Wait,
Hold on.
I actually want to know
wait,
what
wait.
happened.
Let me actually
What
finish
happened?
let me
What
finish
happened when the
talking real
Pacers
fast.
and the Suns faced each other?
Let me finish talking real fast. So, anyways, 4 of their 8 games that they've won in the bubble haven't even been against teams playing. So you wanted to bring up the Mavs just now and interrupt me. Wait a minute. Luka only had 11 minutes in that game against against the Suns. And in fact, most of their starters barely played any minutes in that game. Actually, against the Sixers, none of their starters even played in that game. And also, the Heat, no Jimmy Butler, and the Wizards, no Bradley Beal. So these teams that they're beating aren't even at full strength, like whenever they're playing them. They're playing and winning games in the bubble whenever a lot of team seasons don't even matter.
I'll wait.
They don't even matter.
I'll wait. I'll wait. Okay, are you ready?
No. I'm still going on.
Okay, keep going. Keep going then.
Anyways, also, yeah, so the record isn't as good as it looks. Like the fact that they've won 8 games, they're beating 4 teams that aren't even trying really at all. And Devin Booker also is an immense defensive liability. The guy was literally ranked. I just took within like the last 10 minutes that we've been doing this podcast, I just looked up Devin Booker defense. He was literally ranked dead last in defense plus minus in the 2019 season. And he's just been historically known as a horrible defender. Like even Suns fans will agree in like YouTube comment sections and stuff that Devin Booker plays no defense, and they don't even try to like defend him on that. They just concede it entirely. It's like LeBron coming up small in the 2011 finals. Like nobody's going to really try to defend it. Nobody's going to try to really defend that. Well, Devin Booker plays no defense. And then like also another thing too is whenever it comes to other advanced analytics, whenever I was looking this up too, he has the fewest win shares out of any player that has had 25 points per game in their career for one season. Like, what? How does that happen? Like, how are you really that like? You have not that much impact on your team winning these games despite putting up all these points. Like, how does that happen? And another thing too is in 2018, Devin Booker. So Broski wanted to talk about like Victor Oladipo having all these like good teammates or something. Like, yeah, sure, some of these guys have risen into star players. Whenever Oladipo was the number 1 guy on his team, the next closest dude had was like Bogdanovich at like 14 points a game or something. Like, what? Like, he doesn't have like a bunch of talent around him. That's a false narrative. Like, sure, these guys have developed into really, really good players, but Devin Booker, like, he had TJ Warren on his team in 2018, that same year that we're talking about with Victor Oladipo, and he won 21 games? What? And yet he's played the same amount of games as he has this year, TJ Warren. They both played 65 games. This year, I think TJ Warren has played 67 games, same points per game average, same minutes average, same everything. And yet, for some reason, wins are less than half. Like these Pacers are at like what 48 wins right now or something. Like, and yet those Suns only had 21 wins. And another thing too is, it's just like really weird that Devin Booker for some reason has caused TJ Warren to lose like twice the amount of games as he had whenever he was playing the same minutes, same points per game, same everything. Like it's a very common denominator here. Like Devin Booker has been in the league for like what, going on 5 years now or something, and yet the guy has had one season above 30 wins, I believe, outside of this one where he got a bunch of garbage wins in the bubble, like against teams not even really trying that much. And also another thing too is this was an interesting stat that I believe DerBroski posted in the chat the other day. Devin Booker just recently got his first 4-game win streak. His first 4-game win streak in the NBA. Like, good job, Devin Booker. Half a decade in the NBA, and you got your first 4-game win streak. Damn, dude. Like, I don't care how bad your team is. You should never go 5 years with no 4-game win streak. That's really bad. But as for Oladipo, on the other hand, the guy was the number 1 scoring option in 2018 by a large margin. He actually was the steals leader for the NBA in 2018. He made an All-NBA first team for defense and All-NBA second team. And on top of that, he was the most improved player in the NBA, and he got to the playoffs, something that Devin Booker has never done. He has never even come close to the playoffs. And yet, if it wasn't for a Game 5 game winner by LeBron James, who is possibly, I mean, well, I'm actually not going to say that, but he is almost without a doubt the second best player at this moment of all time in the NBA. If it wasn't for a Game 5 game winner by that guy, then they probably win that series and advance to the conference semifinals. And another thing too is to add on to like that roster depth. Like I'm actually just looking at that right now. Yeah, Bogdanovich had 14 points per game on that team for that year. And yet, Paul George the following year, or I'm sorry, the previous year was on that team, and yet they only got 42 wins. So if you want to talk about a team doing really well without Victor Oladipo, despite them getting much better, look at Paul George. Nobody here is sitting here trying to debate that Paul George is worse than Victor Oladipo, right? We all agree that Paul George is better, and yet they got less wins. Maybe it's just because they got a little bit better. Maybe it's because Victor Oladipo got a little bit better on that team. Like some of these guys, like Sabonis, like all these guys weren't as good as they were in 2018, and they've just gotten a little bit better. But with all that said, I don't really see how there's even remotely close to a case on Devin Booker versus Victor Oladipo. I get it. Devin Booker is playing out of his mind in the bubble currently. He's doing great against teams that aren't even playing most of their star players or even really any of their starters. But I mean, sure, go on.
Wait. Okay, so wait. So you said Luka played like 11 minutes, right? Because on here it says he played 38 minutes, had 40 points actually. Kristaps Porzingis also had 30 points in that game, so I guess that's a garbage team. Anyway, they won that game. Next game they played the Clippers at full strength. He hit a game winner over Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So I mean, I guess they weren't playing that game.
That was a good one.
Must have been some ghosts or something. I don't really know. Let's see. T.J. Warren, you wanted to bring that up and said that he couldn't win with him. T.J. Warren played 43 games last year. So that's if we're doing math here, it's about half.
In 2018, they both had T.J. Warren for 65 games. What happened? 21 wins, DerBroski.
Okay, well there's a difference of like 10 games here. So I mean, obviously, if we're talking this year, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about last year, 2018, whatever. I mean, he doesn't have TJ Warren this year, and they have 34 wins. And I mean, we're missing about 10 games of the year, and so I think that's about 10 games more wins without TJ Warren. Also, let's look at Victor Oladipo's stats here. He's averaging, so 2018, which is your favorite year, he averaged 4.3 assists per game as a shooting guard. Let's see. Okay, so we'll go direct stats here. So 23 points per game for Oladipo. Let's see. Devin Booker is averaging 26.6 points per game this year.
That's going up. That's going to be like close to 27.
Yeah,
48% field goal percentage.
On 48%. Victor Oladipo is shooting 47%, so that's really good. I'll give him that. 4.3 assists. Devin Booker's averaging up almost 7 assists this year. I mean, yeah, he's a better defender. I mean, like, how many All-Stars did that guy have on his team? Like, out of curiosity.
0. 0.
Yeah. Devin Booker had 0 too in a harder conference. Anyways.
Okay, and he had over double the wins.
Okay.
Over double the wins.
In the Eastern
you
Conference,
almost had
better
teams.
Organization.
You almost had teams for wins, and the East wasn't even that weak that year. Look at it.
See, Frenzy's favorite thing is being like calling people prisoner of the moment, and he's being a huge prisoner.
The retrospective opinion. It's not even a prisoner of the moment. This literally happened 2 years ago.
Prisoner of the moment with Oladipo. And if you look at Oladipo, the guy has been garbage since. Like the guy has declined. It was a one-hit wonder season.
You're bringing up stuff outside of 2018.
It was a fluke. That's what it was. Devin Booker has progressively gotten better every single year.
We're talking about 2018, though. We're talking about the year 2018. Not talking about other years with Victor Oladipo.
And also, we want to bring up how he apparently played great against the Cavs. He actually played.
I never even said that.
He played worse than his regular season stats.
Did I say that he played great against the Cavs? No,
I didn't say you did. I said there's this narrative that he played great against the Cavs, when in reality the guy did not have a great series. He underperformed, and also let's get into the perspective that players like J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver were guarding him, and he was 22 points per game on 40% field goal percentage against the garbage ass Cavs. Like LeBron literally just single-handedly just carrying JV players to the finals. Like Oladipo, he is not a great offensive player. He is good defensively, but he is not good offensively. He is incredibly inefficient. Booker is a much better passer. Booker is no debate, like not even fucking close, a way better offensive player. And Devin Booker, since 2015, has the most game-winning shots, tied with LeBron James. Does Oladipo have a track record of being a clutch player at
so
all?
what I want to know
So
too.
again, you're talking about other years other than 2018. We're not talking about Oladipo from.
Well, what
now,
did it?
we're
Well,
talking about
what I want to
Devin
know is
Booker,
like, are you
minutes
taking
and topic.
a guy for his offense or for his defense? Because I mean, we all have Steph Curry in our top
Victor
5 here.
Oladipo that year was both, so I'll take him all day.
but the thing
Devin
is,
Booker
though,
is a complete liability on defense. I'll take the guy that was first team all
so is
defense.
Steph Curry, and so is Damian Lillard, and so is James Harden. Offense
No,
holds
Steph
way more
Curry
power.
actually plays more defense.
Offense holds way more weight than defense. Like, sure,
then why is he
Oladipo
getting 21 wins?
because he's in the Western Conference with a horrible organization. The Suns are
that
known
doesn't
as
matter.
literally the worst organization in the NBA, like at least top 5 worst organizations.
You know
So-
that
team
Paul
is
George
so
left
bad.
Indiana.
So let's look
you know
at
that
let's look
Paul
at his
George
team
left
in
Indiana because they
let's
said,
look at his
yeah,
team in
we're not
2018.
gonna get you another star
So
player because
so we're gonna go over his team in 2018 since you want to bring up the amount of wins that he was getting. Devin Booker was 21 years old at the time. Oladipo had been in the league longer, had more experience. So if we're gonna go off that,
1 year by what 1 year he was in the league longer.
I think he was drafted in like 2013, if I'm not mistaken, and Devin Booker was 2015. But anyways, so we have
Years.
TJ Warren, who missed 20 games almost. We have Elfrid
and we
Payton,
already
who played
established
19
that.
games.
Already established that TJ Warren played 67 games or 65 games. He played 67 this year.
Okay, but we're going to look at the
Basically
rest
the
of the
same.
roster, though, okay, right? So we have Josh Jackson, who played 77 games, who's now in the G League. We have Dragan Bender, 35-year-old Tyson Chandler, 22-year-old Tyler Ulis, Isaiah Kanan, Marquise Chris, Greg Monroe. That's our main rotation here. So I mean, I don't know like who you're expecting him to win with, like in the Western Conference. I mean, that team probably wins like 35 games in the East.
Probably this TJ Warren guy that you guys have been hyping up all week. Go on.
Well, the guy
I mean, we're just
exploded
going
into
over his
this
teammates, and if
player.
we look at this year, like this is the first year. If you look at his team, that he's had a consistent rotation on his team. Like, I mean, if we look at the games played, DeAndre Ayton got suspended for half the year, so I mean, you have to take that in consideration as well. That's his second best player on his team, was suspended half the year, and they have 34 wins right now. Like, they also had Ricky Rubio as a solid point guard. Guy was averaging almost 9 assists a game. Kelly Oubre, who showed out this year, guy played 56 games, so almost the whole year. You have Mikal Bridges, Dario Saric, Aaron Baines, all these other like quality players.
So he has a
on this
great team, and he only has 34 wins.
It's not a great team. It's a somewhat quality team. They're getting better. I mean, like if you look at the stats, like year by year, they're getting better every year, and like that's why we made this bet that they're going to win 40 games next year. And guess what? They won 34 games this year.
They had a really good shot at winning 40 games if it was a full season.
So hold on.
The second best player in the team missed half the season. So almost.
Okay, so you what you did right there was you tried to put up a smoke screen by having list off a bunch of players on which some of these guys probably weren't even on the team for the majority of the year. They might have gotten traded to other teams, whatever. I'm not even going to really look into that. All I know is exactly what I said earlier, and the argument that Victor Oladipo was better that year than Devin Booker any one of his individual seasons is more compelling than anything that you're trying to say. And people on Reddit agreed with me as well. Whenever you guys trolled, were laughing about it and told me to make a post on it, and it was probably a 70-30 on Victor Oladipo.
Posted now.
Getting better.
Posted now. Bet you that's not the case now. And also, what I find very funny is
people are
that
going to be a prisoner of the moment.
What I find funny,
trying to take advantage
what
of?
I find funny is that literally the Pacers had the same exact wins the next year when Oladipo missed. He only played in 36 games, and they somehow win 48 wins back-to-back years. This goes to show that the guy was surrounded by great talent, or not great talent, but good role players.
So
He's
let's-
surrounded by good role players. How are they winning 48 games when he's only playing 36 games? How is
Okay,
that even
well,
happening? The same amount of
okay,
games.
This
Or
is
way
where
different amount of games.
this is where you're starting to show that you don't really know what you're talking about, because the year before that they had Paul George and they only won 42 games. Oh yeah, and they had Monta Ellis as well. So like, how's it that they're winning significantly less games with pretty much the same team? What's going on? And they lost Paul George and Monta Ellis, but then the next year they have Oladipo, and yet they win more games. I don't know, man. And then you want to sit here and talk about how they have like the same team or something? Like we've already established, Sabonis is clearly not even like the same player that he was that year. Like he is a much better player. In fact, he made an All-Star game this year. That's crazy. Like the guy has shown drastic improvement over his last few years as a player. A lot of these guys on this team have as well. It's not just him. And guess what? Sure, like you can just sit there and look at the records all you want, like all day. But I mean, there's more to it than just that. And as far as and I just want to say, just to wrap up this topic, because we've been on it for probably about 15 minutes now, and I don't think B-Side has contributed anything so far because he hasn't really had the chance to. It's not his fault. But I just want you guys to look at, again, the Suns' last few games that they played so far. Played against Philly, didn't start any of their starters in that game. Miami, no Jimmy Butler. And what was the other one? It was the Wizards with no Bradley Beal. So 3 of their 8 games they have won have been pretty much free gimme games. Yet they're still struggling as well. So, I mean,
How are they
hey,
struggling?
like
They won by
you can say
13, 27, 7,
they won by 7
15.
against the Heat. 7 against the Heat.
The Heat are a playoff
How's that?
team without Jimmy
With
Butler.
without Jimmy Butler too.
They are a
won by
playoff
13.
team without Jimmy Butler. They are not like a bum ass team without Jimmy Butler. Sure, they're worse,
they
but
won.
they're a playoff team in the East without Butler.
They won
They beat
by
they
13
beat Indy by
points.
15, which had
Okay, I get it, but that's not one of the teams that I mentioned. Talking about stuff that I'm not even talking about. So Devin Booker in that game, he played 41 minutes. Okay, that's a lot of play time against the Sixers. He didn't play. No Al Horford, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid.
well, you're ranking the
What?
Heat as like a
What?
good team, and but the Pacers have the exact same record, so the Pacers not a good team, and they were at full strength.
What's up with that? No. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that they had no
You're
Jimmy
talking
Butler.
about gimme games. I mean, like you're not
Yes,
mentioning the
no
hard
Jimmy
games.
Butler. No Jimmy Butler. Like
Okay,
that,
so
that
the
doesn't make
so the Pacers aren't a gimme game, and they won by like 15. So like what
all right,
like
yeah.
you're
Like
trying to take away
it's
from
not
their wins.
it's not a gimme game. I'm not trying to say that it is a gimme game, and I didn't try to say that the Lakers or the Clippers game was a gimme game either.
You said the
But I'm
Dallas
saying that
game was a gimme
half of their-
game,
half
and
of their
Luka
games
dropped
are gimme
40.
games.
Wait,
Like,
just curious, who's better right now, Devin Booker or Oladipo?
It's probably Devin Booker. Yeah.
Good.
But in
Oladipo,
2018,
third best player on his team.
But in 2018, it was clearly Oladipo in every metric, everything that you look at, just otherwise.
so are you
Yeah, I just
taking?
find it
Sure,
funny.
anybody can have a fluke season.
Okay,
Isaiah
okay,
Thomas.
but you agree that
No, I don't agree. Devin Booker
So
is
are you gonna
definitely
take?
better.
Are you gonna take
Okay.
like 2018 or 2017 Isaiah Thomas over 2020 Devin Booker then? Does he average more points
Yes.
per game? You are.
probably. I don't know. I have to look at it more.
Okay.
This is
2018
whole,
Isaiah
like,
Thomas
1
was literally
year.
in 2018 Isaiah Thomas was literally in the MVP discussion.
Are you gonna
Devin
take?
Booker has never even sniffed that conversation.
Are you gonna take 2015 Steph Curry or 2018 Oladipo then? Because they average like the same amount of points per game, and Oladipo's a better defender. So, who's better?
Again, you're just looking at stats.
No.
You're not looking
Well,
at
well,
everything
you
else.
just brought up metrics, right? So I mean, why can't I bring up metrics? So like, what are the metrics say about
I'm not
that?
even just bringing up metrics though. I'm bringing up other things that I brought up earlier. Look at the teams that they're playing against. Like, that's not a metric.
You're
That's
right.
literally,
The Western
that's just
Conference
literally
is
just me
harder.
telling.
So
Yeah,
like,
but
Yeah,
you're
that's why he has
also
less wins.
you're ignoring the fact that they literally had to run the table to.
No,
to
no,
get
no.
into
I
the
did not ignore
playoffs.
that. That was one of the first things that I brought
You're
up.
brushing
I brought
it.
up
You're
that they had
brushing
their
it
back
off.
against
Like
the
you're like,
wall.
wait,
No,
whoa,
no,
these
because that
teams
gives
are
them
bad.
more reason to want to play and win. So that gives them, like they're playing all their guys. They're literally playing Devin Booker out there for 41 minutes against a team playing their third stringers. Like, the fuck is that? That actually takes away from it.
Well,
Talking about.
the Suns are a pretty good team. The Heat are a playoff team without Jimmy Butler. Game winner over Clippers. Beat the Mavs when Luka's dropping 40.
Okay, we get it. Like, he's doing good in the bubble. What has he done since?
You know,
or,
and
like,
then
before
and then
that?
look at
He's
the and
done
then look at the
nothing.
Thunder too. They
Being a
just
prisoner of the
fucking
moment, dude.
destroyed the Thunder too. Well, I mean,
You're
dude,
being a prisoner of the moment. Like,
I have
get
no
it. I get it. He's
bias.
having a good.
Both of you
He's having
guys
a good
are
stretch. Like,
biased on Oladipo. You're biased on Oladipo, and clearly Broski's biased with Booker having his profile picture as Booker. I really can care less for either player. I don't hate either. I honestly think it's funny, like just trolling you about Oladipo because the guy is fucking super overrated. And literally TJ Warren is now his dad. But I just I think that Booker is definitely the better player. But with that said, VSAT's been quiet for 20 minutes, just
VSAT's been
eating his
hungry.
popcorn, enjoying this battle.
Yeah, it was honestly a great debate. I didn't really feel like I added a whole lot there. The only thing I'll say is my guy Victor Oladipo's got a great first name. That's undebatable. That's not for debate. What a great name that is.
Here comes VSAT with a political answer here.
Wait, but who do you think is better, 2018
No, I mean, it's
Oladipo
interesting.
or 2020 Booker?
It's just an interesting thing when you narrow it down just only to 2018. Only because he has played a lot more than D-Book, right? Like, D-Book's only 23, whereas Oladipo's 27. So to say 1 year and only look at that 1 year just feels a little incomplete. But obviously, when Oladipo started getting rolling, he suffered from a pretty serious knee injury that I just want to shout out to Rad brought up in the chat. So I think that obviously hurt him. I mean, I think the obvious answer would be Booker, but I think it is. I think Frenzy poised like a really good debate there, and I don't know. I don't think Oladipo's far off, but I think it's definitely Booker, I would say.
fair enough.
That's all I got for that. But I think you guys all good with that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine.
All right, so let's go into the next topic, which is the most underrated player in the NBA right now, and I guess I'll tackle that one just because I was pretty quiet for most of the the other debate.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So at first, honestly, it wasn't something that really like kind of jumped out at me. I had to kind of look around a little bit and kind of see, just because I haven't really been super into the loop more recently. So there wasn't any names that I feel like weren't really popping up at me. So I started like doing some research on that, and the player that I came across that I think is kind of very interesting for me, and I want to hear your guys' take first, but that's all right, is Duncan Robinson. So I was taking a look at his stats, and it was pretty remarkable, right? So he's a 27-year-old who went undrafted, and in the past 11 games, which obviously predates the bubble, 6 of the 11 he actually scored more than 20, and for the remainder of them it was at least I believe like 14. Besides one game he had 3, but he is shooting 44% from 3 this year, which is pretty remarkable. He is averaging 14 a game, and yeah, like I said, I as far as like underrated goes, I mean, like I said, I'm a little more out of the loop with the sports debate talk shows and all those things. So I think a lot of that has to go with like what names are getting notoriety and what people are talking about. But as far as that, I mean, like I would say he is one dude that is absolutely balling this year. And like I said, this is basically from this year. I mean, last year alone, I think he only played a handful of games I saw. So he has really added another layer to them with their shooting more than anything. I mean, he's shooting 93% from the free throw line as well. So I think that's, for me, the player that I'd have to go with.
That's a good one.
I wasn't really thinking about that one myself. My guy is, I don't know. This is kind of weird because whenever you think of this guy's name, you're gonna be like, the fuck, like, he's not over or underrated or anything, but I really feel like, I guess underrated isn't the right word to describe this season for him, and it's more like underappreciated. Like, I personally, I don't know, like I have 2 guys for this. So I mean, if you guys don't agree with this one, you guys can go ahead and say that you just don't agree with it. But I feel like what Chris Paul is doing right now with the OKC Thunder is just like everybody expect them to be shit this year. Like going into the season, I don't think I really know anybody that was like, oh yeah, they're gonna be like the 4 seed in the playoffs or in the West or something. Like no, that was not a thing. Like before the season started, nobody thought that they were gonna get 50 wins, which is what they were pretty much on pace to do in the West, keep in mind. Like, and yet the guy has taken a full team of, I believe that they have 0 All-Stars. Like, none of these guys have made All-Star appearances. Although, some guys like Gallinari and Dennis Schroeder, or when I think Dennis Schroeder has, yeah, he hasn't had an All-Star game, but not in like 5 years or something. Like, a lot of these guys are not. Big name like marquee players outside of, I guess, Chris Paul himself, but he's what a lot of people consider to be washed going into the season. Like nobody really thought that Chris Paul was going to be able to just go over to OKC, brand new team, brand new everything, and then be the number 4 seed in the West right now. Like I don't think anybody could have told me that going into the season, and I just feel like a lot of people are just kind of writing off Chris Paul as like, oh yeah, he's lost his touch and stuff, and then they kind of look over and see like, oh yeah, what team is he on this season? Oh, what the Thunder are number 4. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think that's a
Personally, I
great
think Chris
answer.
Paul. But if you guys didn't agree with the Chris Paul one, I'd say Ibaka. Like personally, I think Ibaka has gone under the radar. Like the dude has improved so much in the last 2 years. It's crazy. Like the guy's like approaching uh, an improvement territory like late in his career that I didn't think that he was going to be able to get to this point. But I mean, hey, look at the Raptors. They're doing just fine without Kawhi. They were doing just fine before they got him, and they might even advance to the NBA Finals this year as well. Like they're just looking that good, especially defensively, and that's something that Ibaka is really good at. He's a 2-time block champion. So I don't know. I don't really want to go on too much more, but yeah, you guys can go ahead and
Yeah, I'm
say
gonna
TJ
go.
Warren or something.
So are we doing the bubble or are we doing like overall?
No,
Like
overall,
overall,
not the
Overall.
I
bubble.
gotta say, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go or what is his name? Pascal Siakam, PJ Siakam, Pascal Siakam, because I mean, I think everybody was expecting those Raptors to take a step back this year for sure, and that guy like is arguably in the argument for most improved player again this year. I mean, I think he's averaging like 20 plus a game this year. Leading that team. Just got a huge contract. I mean, that team has like one less win than the Lakers, I think, right now. Um, I think that team is just like surprised a lot of people, and I think it's just because of Siakam. I mean, it's a lot of it's coaching as well, um, because Nick Nurse has obviously proved to be a great coach in this league, but I think Siakam has just also taken a huge step this year. I don't think that people have really given him the credit that he deserves. I mean, he can shoot the 3 ball at this point. Shoot the 3 ball. He's obviously a menace in the paint. So I mean, that guy's very underappreciated and underrated in my opinion. But that's just my whole take on that.
I'm really
Yeah, I really
surprised
like that Raptors.
that none of you said this. And honestly, Broski, I completely disagree with you that thinking Pascal Siakam is underrated. The guy was literally an all-star starter this year, and everyone like saw how good he was in the finals last year. He put people on notice last year. Like maybe last year you could say that he's underrated, but everybody knows how good that guy is now, and he's continuing to improve. So I don't really think you can classify him as underrated. The guy that I have in mind is CJ McCollum. I mean, this guy has been averaging for the last 4 seasons 20.8 points per game, 23 points per game, 21.4 points per game, 21 points per game. This year, 22 points per game. And he has never made an all-star game. Like, that is just insane. Like, dude, CJ McCollum has showed up huge in many moments. Last year, for example, in Game 7 against the Nuggets, you know, Damian Lillard completely disappeared. Dude had like 13 points in a Game 7. And CJ McCollum had like 37 points in Denver, in one of the hardest places to play, in a Game 7 to go to the Western Conference Finals. And he had, like I said, 37 points and was making all the clutch shots. And then you look at these series, before, like in years past. This dude was, showing up big. Like, look at like what he did against the Warriors. The guy was averaging more points per game against the Warriors in some years than, Lillard was. And then you look at last year, like I said, he went off in game 7. In the first round against the against the Thunder, he had 24 points per game. Everybody just remembers Dame going nuts that series, which, he had an insane series and the walk-off game winner shot. But, the dude it seems like he's elevating his play in the playoffs. And, sometimes Damian Lillard is somewhat shrinking in the playoffs. Like, he has those huge clutch moments, but sometimes, like in big elimination games, he sort of shits himself, and CJ's been there to rescue him. And I just think that it's a joke that he hasn't even been to one All-Star game. Like, this guy is a great player. Like, he's like I look at him as like a step down between like a Devin Booker. So, yeah. And
Yeah,
then go ahead.
Okay.
You go.
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, I do kind of like that dynamic with the Blazers, where if like Lillard, because I think that we already had a segment before on the previous episode about Lillard versus like the Joker himself, but and I obviously agreed that I thought that the Joker was better than Lillard and stuff, and we kind of brought playoffs into consideration and stuff. And I don't want to like make this a narrative by any means that I think that Lillard is some sort of a choker or something. He does have his moments where the guy will like take game winners and stuff, and he will ball out pretty hard in the playoffs sometimes, but he has had a couple moments as well where he has come up very small, and who's been there to like help him out and catch his team a dub. It's been CJ, and it's just pretty interesting to see that happen, because you don't really see that happen too much. Like, when has there really been like a team led by like say LeBron or something that you can think of where it's been like that second guy has risen up to the challenge in like the playoffs or in like the finals or something, and then got them a win or something? Like, sure, you could say like Kyrie Irving with like the shot in game 7 or something, but it's like in most of those games LeBron was playing just as good, if not better, than Kyrie was, and it wasn't even just that series. There are plenty of other series as well where like LeBron was clearly the alpha and there just wasn't even a debate. Like, nobody could really say anything else about it. Same thing with like KD and Westbrook. Like, KD was almost always the guy on that team. Like, maybe Westbrook might have like one outlier game where he'll outperform KD if he's in a slump and then they'll get a win. But for the most part, it was just if KD was playing bad, the rest of the team just takes an L. But with the Blazers, it's like they kind of have that split with them where CJ can take the mantle and he can actually carry the torch to a win, despite Lillard having a shooting slump or something. But
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, look at the one series the year before where Lillard just got locked down against the Pelicans. Meanwhile, CJ is over here 25 a game over his season average. Like, dude, if you're like scoring more points per game than your season average and you're scoring like in the 20s, like, that's like really, really impressive. Like, that's stuff that we expect from like superstar players, like, the best of the best to do. So to see someone like take it up to another level, like in these playoffs, I'm not saying that, he hasn't choked or hasn't like, had some bad games or bad series, because he has, but I just don't feel like anybody like really gives CJ McCollum the respect that like he deserves. When you hear the Blazers, you just think of Damian Lillard and how amazing of a player he is, and he's a really good player, but they are a really good duo together.
Yeah, I think that goes well into our next topic. Do you guys want to just jump into that?
Sure.
Will Lillard be able to sustain this level of success in the bubble? So going into the playoffs, which let's get a quick score update too, by the way.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they're actually trailing in the game right now, and it's the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
They're trailing by a fair amount. It's definitely can be easily made up, but
Oh yeah, 6 points. Oh look, McCollum, 21 points. Good.
Guys.
Dude, just fucking good, man.
I
Just
know.
a fucking beast.
Whatever matters most.
Dude, just clutch.
Oh, I like the guy. But
Fucking Karis
yeah,
LeVert.
so like this wouldn't even be a topic, or I mean, I guess if we had done this a couple days later, potentially, just because they can end up losing this game and they do lose like their chance at getting like the 8th seed, right? Like they'll be eliminated from
Yeah.
the season. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that hypothetically, if Blazers do beat the Nets and then they do advance in the playoffs by beating the Grizzlies or whatever, this is obviously a bunch of what ifs or something. But if they do end up doing that, I will have to disagree with Lillard maintaining this level of play. I mean, think about how many 60-point playoff games there have been. Think about how many 50-point playoff games happen each season. Not that many, right? And that's what Damian Lillard is doing right now. He's getting 50, he's getting 60. How many like 50-point playoff games has Lillard had? Like I personally don't know. Like I don't know if he's really had any for that matter. I'm not really a Damian Lillard fan, but I would assume that he's not going to be doing that, especially against a Lakers team that does have some very capable defenders, and I believe that their defensive rating was pretty good this year, right? Like if I remember correctly, I'm not looking at it, ESPN or NBA.com right now, but they have pretty good defense whenever they want to turn it on, and they have a lot of guys that can defend them. And Damian Lillard has, like we said, been known to be one of those guys that is pretty hit or miss in the playoffs, especially where he'll go off for like 40 one night, and then the next night he might go literally 2 for 15 or something from the field and score 11 points on terrible shooting. Like it is a thing that does happen. It is a pattern. It is unfortunate, and I think that it will keep up, and it will be why they end up losing to the Lakers in the playoffs if they do end up getting the 8th seed. That is, yeah, I don't think that Lillard is keeping up there. Go on.
Yeah, I agree. I think just to give a quick update, we were kind of referencing the Nets Blazers score. So right now, from what I see, there's 3 minutes left of the third, and the Nets are up by 5, 95-90. And of course, if the Blazers lose, they will not make the playoffs. But so what Frenzy said, just to keep it short, yeah, I agree. I mean, I was looking at his playoff stats, and he shoots 40% from the floor in the playoffs. I think he'll have some big games, but because of the way it is being, we are prisoner of the moment in terms of sports. Each game, especially when it comes playoff time, I think it's fair to say he's not going to be putting up any 50, 60 point games in the playoffs. I don't believe that to be true, but
Bro, Karis LeVert is fucking clowning them right now. He has like 32 points, scores 99 to 92.
92,
now,
yeah, I see that.
I'm watching a game while I'm talking.
So go on, Visa.
Yeah, so no, I just like I said, we'll save the playoff talk for the playoff talk, and who knows if the Blazers will even make it, because obviously if they don't, this whole topic is a little irrelevant.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. I don't see him dropping 50 or 60 in the playoffs, and that's kind of, Dame's a great player, but he's not going to do that against the Lakers, in my opinion. Derb, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you guys kind of hit it on the head with that. Just with, I think he's going to drop probably like 30 game or so in the playoffs. He's just going to, he's going to have a large volume of shots anyway. So,
Damn, dude.
I don't know. It kind of depends on, how the Lakers guard him again. If they do play them, they have to make it to the playoffs first. But, if they do make the playoffs, I think he's obviously going to have probably 25 shots a game in the playoffs. Which is they're going to need that to win games, but we'll see. I think that overall, he's had an insane stretch, but he's got to keep that up, obviously, if they want to have a chance to sniff the Lakers in the first round. So we'll see.
I just think that it's nearly impossible to keep up with this stretch, like 36 a game on like 50% field goal percentage or close to it. Dude, you're not doing that like he's just on a hot streak right now. Like I'm not seeing him put up crazy stats like that in a playoff series versus the Lakers. And right now they're down by 10, about to enter the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So who even knows if they make it? Like,
and the Nets have outscored
my Suns are going to make the playoffs.
The Nets have outscored the Blazers by 16 in this third quarter.
Damn, it's not good.
So You guys want to move on to the next
Yeah.
topic? As well, just finish up the next two that we have, and then call it a.
Yep.
Yes. Do you want to take it? Yeah. All right. Whatever. I'll just shoot it off. Okay. So I was surprised with how well the Rockets are playing, and you guys think that the Rockets are a legit threat to either upset the Lakers or the Clippers to make the Western Conference Finals?
I'll start out with this one. I think definitely yes for the Clippers. I'll say I'm not going to say the Lakers though, because I think the Lakers just, with their size, just with Anthony Davis, and he's able to run the floor and, defend like a smaller player than he is. I mean, I think that, they're going to have that advantage, being that nobody on that team can guard him. I mean, they don't have a big man anymore. They traded Capella away. So they don't have, that big man presence on the floor. Plus they have Dwight Howard. They can use in situations, to really just bully them down low. I think I was reading a stat that like the Rockets are just, they're so like they're getting out rebounded like crazy. It's kind of like those Warriors when they played the Thunder in the Western Conference Finals. I mean, it's just it's just going to be bully ball essentially in the paint. And I mean, LeBron wasn't even playing, so people are going to bring up the game where the Rockets just shit on the Lakers. Westbrook and AD weren't even playing, so I mean, we can't really get a good judge of how it would be in the playoffs. But I
Ooh.
think that with just everything taken into consideration, I think that the Rockets have a better chance to beat the Clippers personally, just because I mean the Lakers have better bigs, and the Rockets just don't have the bigs to keep up. So I think that they could potentially beat the Clippers, but they'll follow the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals if they play them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk next. One of you guys can, but I just wanted to say, isn't Westbrook like out with an injury or something right now?
Yeah, Westbrook's out for at least a few games of the first series.
They might
Damn.
even lose a Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So go on.
Yeah, well, to what Derb said, so based off matchups, I believe if Houston was to even get past the first round, they got to face the Lakers first anyways, so they wouldn't even match up with the Clippers until the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, I don't know. I like what they do. They're good. D'Antoni's always been a really good regular season coach, and in my opinion and estimation, he's also kind of like he kind of created the small ball era even before the Warriors to some degree, or at least that whole fast-paced offense with the Suns back in the day. But in terms of them making any kind of noise beating the Lakers, I don't personally see that happening. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I remember a couple weeks ago I was saying to Broski and Frenzy that there's a probability of it happening, but now looking at it now, yeah, no fucking chance because they have they have Harden, and we all know that James Harden is the biggest playoff choker in NBA history. Like, I know we've talked like maybe bringing like a guest on the show to like debate a topic. I would love for a Harden fan to come on this podcast and like try to actually debate with us that James Harden is not a choker in the playoffs. Like, that would make my fucking day. Like, just having a debate with some Harden fanboy. So, please, if there's some Harden fans in the chat, please like say like as to why you think he's some clutch player or is not a choker in the playoffs. Like, I would love to see the Rockets and Lakers, classic game 6 James Harden choke job, like fucking 10 points, freaking 10 turnovers, fouling out, all this shit. Like, it's not going to happen. Then now seeing Russell Westbrook injured, like that's not good, man. Like, that's just really not good. Like, they could probably get bounced in the first round. Like, dude, these Thunder are no slouch. They have a bunch of really good role players. My second most underrated player, I was gonna say him, was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That dude's a fucking beast. They have CP3, Steven Adams, Dennis Schroeder, Gallinari. They have a bunch of freaking good ass role players, man. They could definitely, take down the Rockets without a rust. So yeah, I think we're all really in agreement on this one. Like, the Rockets, man, like they're not going to stop AD, and James Harden is a fucking choker, and Russell Westbrook is also a choker too. So, two chokers on one team versus one of the most clutch players ever, LeBron. No chance, no fucking chance.
Yeah, I have absolutely nothing to add, other than I just really am anticipating them. Or, I mean, actually, I just really hope that I get to see a Game 6, like with these Thunder and these Rockets, and I do get to see another classic James Harden performance. Like it'll just be a hardwood classic. You know, I'm gonna absolutely watch the game, and I'm gonna love every minute of it because I just know that once that first quarter hits, it's just going to be nothing but air balls, bricks, and him complaining to the refs about, bro, why am I not getting fouls called on me? This isn't the regular season anymore. Like, whatever. So, yeah, I'm just really looking forward to that. But the last question for this podcast is, who's the most overrated team, top 3 team conference? And did you guys want to do like one out of the 6 teams or one out of each of the conference? Like, top
One
three?
out of this. Well, actually, you guys can decide.
I'll let let's go with Broski first. We haven't had Broski first in a while. You
Well,
can
I just
decide.
went for I just went first last
Oh,
time.
did you
This
actually go
guy's
for?
this
Okay,
guy's
okay.
trying to like
We
just
know who
troll.
he's gonna pick. We know he's gonna pick.
But I mean, I actually have
Bias,
to, I actually
bias. He's
Well,
not gonna pay the
actually
Celtics. Fuck him.
well, I mean, I don't think the Celtics are an overrated team though. I mean, if you look at how
yeah,
Jalen
I
Brown's
don't
been
think they're
playing,
overrated.
okay, so I'll start with the East here. So I think, I mean, I gotta say those 76ers are probably my number one most overrated team.
Whoa, no,
Just
it's the top
what?
3
Top
teams in
3.
each conference.
that's what I'm saying. I'm going by conference. Like
No,
I'm
Yeah,
top.
but
No,
this,
like like I
in
thought the
each
question.
conference.
No,
Yes.
no. I thought the question was out of the top 3 teams in each
Oh,
conference,
oh,
like 1
okay.
through
Okay,
3.
okay.
Like
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
mean,
that's actually hard. Yeah.
ooh, that is hard. I mean, I'll probably have to say the I don't want to say the Bucks because like that's like man. Well, all
Guy
right,
doesn't.
well, let's start with the West then, shall we? I
Oh,
think those
bias.
Nuggets.
Yes.
Joker
Yes, I
hater.
knew it.
Joker
I
hater
knew it.
I mean,
inbound.
if we look to see how they've been playing recently, I mean, last 10 games are 4-6. I mean, and I mean that team. I mean, it has a lot of pieces to it, but I mean, there's only one real fringe superstar on that team. They don't really have the star power to get them through the Clippers or the Lakers, in my opinion. I think the Rockets could beat them too if they played somehow in the playoffs. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'd have to say the Nuggets for the West. Now with the East, I mean, I don't think there's an overrated team there, to be honest. I think they're
Oh,
all
here we
good.
go.
I think they're all
Good.
good teams, but I mean, I'm probably gonna say the Raptors. I gotta say the Raptors, man. I mean, just because, like, I mean, overrated. I mean, like they're playing in an easier conference, so that win total could be, fake. In comparison to like, the other
Good.
teams there. I think the Bucks would beat them, in a series if it
Jesus.
came down to the wire. I mean, I think Kawhi was the reason that put them over the top last year, and it's pretty much the same team. I mean, they have gotten better overall. I mean, but if you look at the Celtics, I mean, I think the Celtics have vastly improved this year, and down the stretch we've been red hot with just how we've been playing. And I mean the Bucks. I mean they're the clear favorite in the conference, and I think it's just for good reason. I mean Giannis is the leader of that team, and they have a ton of good role players and a co-star there. So I think that the Celtics, I mean, would beat the Raptors if they played, and that could potentially be a series. So we'll see. But if you look at when the Celtics did play the Raptors, um, they won 122-100 the last time they played, and that was a serious game too. So I mean, if you just go off that too, I mean, I think we have to say the Raptors are probably the most overrated team in that or in the top 3 in the conference.
Okay. I want to go next though because
Yep.
I think that the way that you guys are looking at this isn't the same way that I'm looking at this. I'm going to look at this from a completely different perspective. Whenever you guys say overrated, or wait, is it? Yeah, most overrated
Overrated.
team. Like, that doesn't mean that you still can't target the best team in that conference.
Yeah,
So
you
exactly.
can.
No,
You
no,
can.
exactly. Yeah, that's
like
that's what I was
can
getting
if you
at
want.
too. Yeah,
I
yeah.
am going to target
He's
uh
going after the Bucks. He's going
yeah,
after the
I'm going
Bucks.
straight after the Bucks in the
Good,
East.
good.
100%
That's not
I'm
a
going
bad
after the
take. That's
Bucks.
really not a bad
And
take, though.
and I do think that they are, as far as the regular season is concerned, they are just like James Harden, built for the regular season. They are
Good.
trouncing teams, trouncing them in the regular season. Again, like it was brought up earlier, 70 win pace? What? Like, that's absurd. Like, and that team does not seem like they are built like a 70 win team. Look at what happened last year. They were the I don't think overwhelming favorites, but they were definitely the favorites to come out of the East. They were up 2-0, and they had those Raptors with their backs against the wall, and those Raptors came back and beat them 4 straight. Like, how does that happen? And Giannis was coming up small. All of his numbers were deflated compared to his regular season numbers, and the guy just was not the same player that we were seeing in the regular season. Who says that the same thing can't happen this year, especially against good competition? The Celtics have a ton of good role players, and the Raptors have a ton of good role players as well. Both have equally, good coaches, Nick Nurse and Brad Stevens. Like, I think that either one of those teams could easily upset the Bucks, and I don't think that the Bucks are this overwhelming favorite to come out of the East, like all these analysts and a lot of like the fans and stuff like that want to say. Like, because everybody is just assuming like, oh, who are the Bucks going to play in the finals? Is it going to be Lakers or Clippers? It's like, do we even think that the Bucks are going to come out of the playoffs? Or I mean, I'm sorry, the East. Like, I mean, a lot of you probably will say yes. I mean, they are still the favorites, but I think that they're overrated though. That aspect, like I think that they could easily get bounced out by. I mean, shoot, maybe even the Heat can beat them. Who knows? I'm not going to bet money on that though. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not betting money versus Bucks. But as far as the West is concerned, it's really, really hard for me to decide between either the Lakers and, well, the Clippers because, a lot of people are sitting here writing them off as if like they're sure shot to like go to the finals and stuff. And, obviously they are the vast overwhelming majority, like are going to say that they are going to the finals. And I think that either one of those two teams is going to the finals for the record. Like I do think that, but I mean, let's not try to act like they're like these dominant juggernaut teams too. Like they are 100% like going to be firing on all cylinders and they're just going to be crashing through all these teams that they play in the playoffs. Like let's not act like these Clippers are going to, if say they play against the Mavs, that they're going to 4-0 the Mavs. Who knows? Maybe these Mavs might even put up a really good fight, 6-game, maybe even 7-game series. Same thing with the Nuggets against the Clippers. Like nobody's sitting here saying that the Nuggets like won't go like 6 or 7 games against the Clippers. Or I'm sorry, a lot of people are just kind of assuming that they won't, but I think that these series could easily go 6-7 games. Same thing with the Lakers. If the Lakers play against the Blazers, if the Blazers end up winning this game, it could be a 6-game series. Like they could have a rough like ride to the finals this year. I'm not going to say the Nuggets because nobody's sitting here saying that the Nuggets are going to the finals. Nobody is saying that they might even make it to the Western Conference Finals. I think that they might have a chance, but I mean, that's just me. I don't think it's really likely though. So I'm not going to say the Nuggets. I think that it's either the Lakers or Clippers. If I had to pick between the two, I'd in fact maybe even say no. Like honestly, it's so hard. I'd probably say Clippers. Out of the two teams, I think is more overrated. So I'm taking Clippers and Bucks.
But why? But why are the Clippers
overrated?
overrated?
I'd say the Clippers because Paul George is, we've seen what he's done in the playoffs before in the past, and like we also haven't really seen like as much, like as far as playoff accomplishments go, we've seen the Lakers, we have seen LeBron, and LeBron has stepped up bigger than anybody has before. Like, as far as getting game winners, he literally has the most game winners made in the playoffs. He has a really high percentage. I know that he has higher than Michael Jordan in the clutch as well, in like the last 5 seconds, game winners and buzzer beaters, all that stuff. Like the guy is clearly one of the most clutch players to ever play the game, if not the most clutch player. And I think that's the Lakers will just end up finding a way to persevere over the Clippers. I think the Clippers, a lot of those guys haven't been as prepared for for the playoffs like this, like some of these veterans on the Lakers have. Dwight Howard has made a finals also. Let's not forget that. Once upon a time, Dwight Howard was arguably a top 5 player in the NBA. AD is arguably a top 5. I have him as top 6 currently. And, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are a great duo and have a lot of good role players, but I don't know if some of those guys will be as prepared as the Lakers are. So I'm just personally picking Clippers to be more
Well, I mean,
overrated.
Anthony Davis really has no playoff experience. I mean, he's won one series, and Kyle Kuzma has 0 playoff experience as well. So
That is
Danny
that is very
Green. Danny
to
Green has been like
Danny
3
Green is
yeah, I
finals.
know,
Yep,
yeah,
Danny
no.
Green
We're
has
not
won a
like
finals.
I'm not saying the role players too, and then like someone like Alex Caruso. So like, yeah, you got people like JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Danny Green. Once Rondo even comes back, like, yeah, those guys have experience, but Kawhi has experience, Paul George has experience, Pat Beverly has playoff experience, and guess what? Doc Rivers, championship coach, multiple finals appearances, multiple Eastern Conference Finals appearances, has been in those big moments. But my opinion, I think that the Nuggets are for
Total
sure.
excellent.
Like, I feel like the Nuggets, like, no debate, are the most overrated team in the top 3 of the West, just because I feel like I told you guys before the bubble started, I think the Nuggets are going to struggle because they rely on home court so much. And yeah, they haven't been playing their starters as much, but dude, they have not been playing good in the bubble. And on top of that, I feel like they have the easiest draw in the first round. You know, like, I feel like the Blazers are better than the Jazz. I feel like the Mavericks are a pretty good 7 seed. The Thunder and Rockets, they're, better than the Jazz. So I feel like the Nuggets honestly got lucky. I feel like if the Nuggets face the Thunder, Thunder could knock them off, or, look what the Blazers did last year against those Nuggets. Like, those Nuggets are so reliant on home court. I like Jokic. I honestly like the Nuggets. They're a pretty cool team. Nothing against them, but I just feel as if they rely on home court so much. And, I told you guys before, they might struggle in the bubble, and I can see them getting bounced first round. I mean, we're going to talk about playoffs in another episode, but, they just got lucky just facing the Jazz in the first round. The Jazz are a little bit disappointing of a team this year. I'm surprised by that. And then going in the East, Frenzy hit the nail on the head with the Bucks. I don't think the Celtics or the Raptors are underrated. I think they're both good teams. We will see the difference. Like, all these analysts are like, "Oh, the Raptors had the same record with Kawhi and without Kawhi." Like, if you watched the series last year versus the Sixers, you saw the impact Kawhi had on the series. You saw the impact Kawhi had against the Bucks last year, and it will be shown in the playoffs. Outside of wins and loss records and statistics, like, you have to watch the series themselves. But the point is with the Bucks is, if a team's on a 70-win pace and they're just like clowning teams left and right, like, wouldn't you feel as if like they should have a legitimate shot of making the finals and winning it? Like I said, like an hour or so ago, it feels like everybody in the entire NBA community feels as if it's Lakers or Clippers are winning the championship. It's just that simple. Like, outside of Milwaukee, no one is saying Bucks are winning it. Everybody is just Lakers or Clippers. So for a team to be just destroying teams all year, and you still don't have faith in them to, win the championship, like Skip Bayless said about, James Harden, and, say the same about the Bucks, might be built for the regular season. So we'll see what happens. I just think that they are not as good as their records suggest.
I agree with both you guys, both Frenzy and IraqemUp, but I think the thing is, it's the way you interpret the question. So it's like, who is the most overrated team? And I think Frenzy kind of pointed to this a little bit, but you don't really see many people, or at least I haven't seen many people really picking the Nuggets to come out of the West. So therefore, I feel like just because the other 2 teams left in the West are the Lakers or the Clippers, any team that LeBron is on is always under like an absurd microscope, because that's just, that's how his career has been. So for that purpose alone, I would have to say the Clippers, and that's not to say that they won't get to the finals or, likely win, because that's still very possible. But I think one thing that is interesting is Paul George and Kawhi, I believe, have only played like 28 games together. And in those games, they're highly effective. They're like 21-7. But the question will be like the meshing come the playoff time, because playoffs obviously a different animal than the regular season. But as far as like everything goes, it seems like everyone kind of knows like what's wrong more so with the Lakers and like the holes that their game has. But more people, I feel like, kind of just pick the Clippers as like an automatic. So I think for that reason alone, just as the question is like who's more overrated, I'd have to probably say the Clippers just from that standpoint alone. I agree with you though, IraqemUp, in terms of like the Nuggets are definitely, they're a good team, but they're the worst of those three. But the question I think is more so overrated, and I don't really think many people have the Nuggets rated to a point that are gonna be, that they're coming out of the West. Like I personally don't see that. And as far as the East goes, I'm going to agree with both you guys as well with the Bucks. I don't, we'll save the playoff talk for the playoff talk. I personally, all season long, have been against the Bucks in terms of not making it out. I don't think they have enough. I don't think. I think what you're seeing a lot is Giannis, kind of like LeBron with his first stint in Cleveland to some degree. But I just don't think. I don't personally trust Middleton and the guys behind Giannis. And Giannis is not the player LeBron was in his first stint in Cleveland, where he ended up getting past Detroit and getting destroyed by the Spurs in 07. But I'm gonna agree with both you guys from the Bucks in the East, and I would have to say Clippers in the West, just based off what the question is, overrated.
Yeah, again, like whenever I think that some of these guys were talking about their opinion stuff about the question, yeah, I think I'm in a lot of agreements with you. Like, that's the way that I'm looking at it as well.
Yeah.
Is just I'm not necessarily looking at who is like the better team or something or whatever, or I'm sorry, who's like the worst team. Like, as me and you were the only ones that said that the Nuggets like should be immune to that, because nobody in here thinks that the Nuggets are better than the Clippers or the Lakers. So I don't see how they could possibly be overrated. And
right.
and yeah, they absolutely deserve their 3 seed as well. Like they are right behind the Clippers too. And sure, I get it. Like home court is a big deal for those Nuggets, but let's not act like their away record is like horrible either. Their away record is still positive by a couple games too. So it's not like they need home court advantage on like some teams such as the Sixers, who are currently, I'm looking at it right now on ESPN.com. The Sixers are 31-4 at home. That's a really good record. But you look at their away record, 11-26. What is that? Like, are they even trying whenever they're on the road? Like, I don't know if like they are. So, yeah, the Nuggets are still like a very deserving 3 seed in my opinion in the West, and they do pose a minor threat to the Clippers. But do I think that they're going to end up winning over the Clippers? I don't think so. But yeah, again, that's too much playoff talk for right now. But yeah, I think Nuggets are almost immune to that question. Same thing with like Celtics and Raptors. Nobody's picking them to come out of it either. It's pretty much all Bucks.
I don't know about that.
I mean, we'll talk about more. We'll talk about that way more like
good
here in like a week or something. But
dude, these fucking Nets, man, they're about to knock the Blazers out. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm seeing what 124, 119 for the Nets,
Great.
or 124,
122, 124.
Great
not trying to spoil it
stream.
too much.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
dude. Fucking mellow, huge 3.
So we'll wrap up episode 2 with that. Thank you to everyone that came in, listened, checked out the podcast. For anyone that wants to follow these guys, we'll have their description in the chat as well as in the YouTube. As we should have episode 3 here hopefully going to be up here much sooner than later, with the playoffs starting, I believe, Saturday, right? Is the actual day?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
playing games Saturday.
Yeah, so we'll kind of figure out our next episode. I don't know. Yeah. So we'll figure out our next episode. But thank you guys. Hope you guys did enjoy the stream, and we'll see you guys next time in a few days.
Peace.